It's the best of both worlds, really. Let's come in here, really pile it in. So much grip. It's just mighty. Foot on the floor, that diff. There you go. The diff's just finding grip. Finding grip. Hi guys, welcome to my review on BMW's brand new 128ti. I actually featured one of these on the channel about 5 weeks ago. Tony Lewis lent me his demo for a few hours and I shot a quick first drive video. If you missed that, there's a link to it up here somewhere. There'll also be one in the description. This is a BMW press car and I've actually had it for the past 5 days or so and covered almost 500 miles. The 128ti sits just below the flagship M135i xDrive, and this car actually shares many components with that flagship car, including its B48 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. But power and torque figures are down about 10%. This has 265 horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque. But all of that is fed through the front axle via a standard limited slip differential and not via an xDrive system like it is in the M135i. One of the standout features with the 128ti, as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that it weighs 80 kilos less than an M135i. I'm sure most of that has to do with the fact that it doesn't have a rear drive shaft. A base spec 128ti costs £34,300 here in the UK. That's almost £1,000 more than when I last checked just 5 weeks ago. This particular one, being a UK press car, has a couple of options done in it. The technology pack, the Harman Kardon sound system and the heated steering wheel, but that's pretty much it. And it retails at about 37 grand on the road, which I think isn't too bad at all and sits way below that £40,000 tax threshold that we have here in the UK. Something I need to talk more about on this channel is monthly payment costs and not just RRP, because let's face it, the majority of people buy this sort of car on finance these days. A quick search online last night found a base spec 128ti would cost you about £399 a month with just £399 deposit, so a fairly affordable hot hatch. Aside from the obvious badging around the back, this car does have some telltale signs to let you know that it is a 128ti. Around the side of the bumper here we have some red air intakes. Along the side sills there are red. We also have TI badging just in front of both of the rear wheels. And when you get around the back, there's some little red accents as well. Most of those are optional though, so you can get them removed because I know they're not to everyone's taste. That red styling continues to the inside, so let's jump inside where it's a little bit warmer and have a quick look at the cabin. I'm a big fan of the current 1 Series interior, and this 128ti just adds a little bit more spice to that. There's contrasting red stitching throughout the door cards, across the dashboard. The seats are the standard leather and Centertech seats, and they also have red stitching and a red stripe down the middle of them. Maybe not to everyone's taste, but I think they look pretty cool and they just make it feel a bit different to a normal 1 Series. We have a nice embroidered TI down here on the armrest as well, and obviously the red stitching continues into the lovely M Sport steering wheel, which is heated in this particular model, and I have to say it's 3 degrees out there and it's nice to jump in and hold this. Everything else in here is as I want it. I like the infotainment screen. It's not too big and in your face. It actually flows really nicely into the dashboard, and the actual dials on this particular car, well, it doesn't have the digital cockpit. It has more traditional analog style dials with a digital bit in the middle. It's a bit like going back 5 or 6 years to the older generation 1 Series, but I really like it and I've got used to the regular round dials compared to the digital cockpit ones that are slightly angular and I'm still not used to. Everything else in here is as you want it and where you want it. There's plenty of space in here for 4 medium-sized adults, lots of storage for big bottles down here and in the door cards, reasonable sized glove box. I really like it. It has a fantastic driving position as you'd expect in a BMW, and this particular car also has a head-up display. I think that's part of the technology pack. Again, an awesome feature to have in a 1 Series. Interior wise, I just can't complain. Let's see what it's like on the road. I'm going to put it straight into sports, over into manual, and turn the traction control completely off, because that's kind of how I've been driving this car in the 5 days I've had it, and it's kind of what works best with this car. This doesn't have adaptive suspension, it has a passive setup, so you're stuck effectively with what the car comes with. But in this 18-inch setup with these standard fit optional Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres, when I say standard fit optional, they're free options, so make sure you tick the PS4 box. I don't know why you would have the regular Bridgestones, which are just terrible. In standard setup, it actually feels really good. The ride is not too harsh, even though the spring rates and stuff I think are about 8% stiffer than an M135i. Definitely doesn't feel that way from the driver's seat. They've taken away some of the strengthening or the bracing around the front end of the car, and that seems to have given the chassis a bit more of a supple setup, even though the spring rates are supposedly a bit stiffer and the compression rates on the shocks are a bit stiffer. So yeah, whatever they've done seems to work really well here in the UK. I'd love to put this against an M135i in a rolling race. Obviously off the line this has got no chance. I think it has a 0 to 62 time of about 6.1 seconds, but that's all down to traction issues off the line. You're never going to launch a front wheel drive car on road tyres any quicker than about 6 seconds to 62 miles an hour. But once this is rolling, let's say over 20-25 miles an hour, it feels every bit as quick as an M135i to me, and in gear it might even feel a little bit quicker. And there's two reasons for that. One is because it's 80 kilos lighter, as we talked about on the outside, but the other is the lack of drivetrain loss. In an M135i X-Drive, it's initially sending power to the front wheels, but does end up sending it around the car, whereas in this 128ti, well, it all goes through the front wheels, and there's not been one point during my time in this car where I've been thinking, oh, I wish this had the 306 horsepower the M135i had, because I think if it did have that power, the torque steer and its handling dynamics would be a little bit overcome, a bit like they are in the Mini GP3. That has too much power and too much torque, and you're constantly wrestling it, whereas this car just has a really nice blend of power and torque, and everything seems to work very well. Something else I've been able to experiment with, because I've had this car for a while, is miles to the gallon. What's its efficiency like? Well, I actually did a long journey the other day and averaged 41.5 miles to the gallon. 41.5! Yes, most of that was motorway, but still, I think for a car that's this capable, this fun, to achieve a figure like that is really, really impressive. And I'm in no doubt that on a motorway only journey, sitting at 70 miles an hour, you could probably achieve 45 miles to the gallon, which is really impressive. The obvious rival for this particular car is the Mark 8 Golf GTI, and I haven't driven one of those yet. I will be getting my hands on one very soon. A base spec Mark 8 GTI with a DSG box, it's 35 grand here in the UK, so they're about £1,000 more than this 128ti, and 20 horsepower down. So even if it does match this car in terms of handling dynamics, it really does show that this car is very, very good value for money, or good bang for buck if you like. Really refreshing driving something that is fun and engaging, Yes, I know the diehards will complain that, well, it's effectively a Mini underneath, which it is. But is that a bad thing? I mean, Minis have always been good fun to drive, and in fact, about a year and a half ago, I was lucky enough to compare my M135i long-termer that I had from BMW UK with petrol peds Clubman JCW, and I actually walked away from that comparison saying that the Mini was the more engaging and more enjoyable car, even though those two are pretty much the same platform. The fact that this car does feel a bit more like a Mini, yet retains all of the lovely BMW cabin and luxury, if you like, I think it's just a really good blend. Is it better than an M135i X-Drive? Well, it's hard to say. I think it's definitely more fun, more enjoyable, more engaging. There's more feeling. Again, that's probably just down to the fact that it weighs a bit less, but I certainly have had a bigger smile on my face in this car for more of the time than when I'm in an M135i. I think the 135i just does such a good job that it almost becomes a little bit average to drive sometimes. Something I have noticed with this car is you can have fun at the speed limit, which is really important, and I go on about that a lot on my channel. I could be sitting at 60 miles an hour and having a lot of fun in this car. It's all very well being in an exotic sports car or supercar, but along a road like this, you'd have to be going over the speed limit to really enjoy yourself, whereas in this, it's just a riot, it really is. Yeah, this doesn't need any more power or torque, it really doesn't. I'm gonna miss this little car. I urge anyone that's thinking about buying one to go out and test drive them, and I know that's difficult at the moment in this current climate, but things will hopefully get better soon. But I can really guarantee that you'll have a good time in this car. It's always up for a play, but it is good on the long journey as well when you knock it back into comfort and let the gearbox, which isn't brilliant, do the shifting. That is one weak point I have to say, is the gearbox, the ISO 8-speed. It's okay, it does a good enough job, but it's not brilliant. It's not as good as a ZF 8-speed box, and I wish that there was a manual option available. The car would be even lighter then and even more engaging. So to summarise, I love this car, I really do. I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant value, it's brilliant fun, it does everything, and it's economical as well when you want it to be. It kind of ticks pretty much all of the boxes. Yes, it doesn't have a lovely straight 6 under the bonnet, but those legs are kind of gone in small BMW hatches, and although the engine's not really sonorous and the gearbox isn't brilliant, in fact, the seats probably could be a bit better as well. It'd be nice if you could option the M135i semi-bucket seats in this. Guys, if you enjoyed this video on BMW's 128ti and want to see more, head over to my Yes Auto page. There's a link below in the description, and I try and convince you why this particular car is the best hot hatch for under £35,000. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one very soon. Cheers.